I don't know what it's worth in truth, but he said that he met Forbes Robson on that occasion.
The headline spreads fast. Before his death, Laurence Olivier named his 6 favorite movies. It sounds perfect, mysterious, dramatic, almost poetic, like something the greatest actor of the 20th century would whisper in his final hours. But here's the truth. He never made that list. Not in an interview, not in a memoir, not even in private letters. So why does the rumor survive? Because Olivier's legacy is huge. Fans want a neat final ranking, a tidy list from a man who spent 70 years mastering kings, killers, lovers, and villains. But Olivier never played favorites. He played challenges, he played transformations, he played characters that demanded everything he had, and sometimes more. So in this video, we're doing what the headline can't. We're separating myth from fact. We're pulling real quotes, real stories, and real moments that mattered to Olivier. And we're spotlighting 6 films and ideas that genuinely shaped his career, influenced his craft, and revealed the artist behind the legend. As you watch, ask yourself, if Sir Laurence Olivier ever did list 6 favorites, would these be the ones? And which one would you put at number 1? Let's begin. Number 6, his acting philosophy. We start at the foundation, not a film, not a role, but the idea that powered every performance Laurence Olivier ever gave.
Marguerite. Huh? The cops will trace a connection between Marguerite and me.
What nonsense.
They'll know that's why you did it.
Olivier didn't see acting as imitation. He didn't see it as ego, and he definitely didn't see it as becoming the character the way later method actors described it. For him, acting was something sharper, something crafted, something designed. He said it clearly, acting is illusion, as much illusion as magic is. And he meant every word. To Olivier, the audience was the willing participant. The actor was the magician, and the performance? A trick so perfect you forget it's a trick. He believed that if the illusion worked, if a man could walk on stage or on screen and make you believe he was a king, a killer, a clown, a saint, then the actor had done his job. And doing that job wasn't optional for him. It was oxygen. He once admitted, "Work is life for me, the only point of life." And he wasn't being poetic. He meant it literally. He once said that if he hadn't become an actor, he might have gone mad. That's how deeply the craft lived in him. Acting wasn't his profession, it was his survival. But here's the twist. Despite being called the greatest actor of his generation, Olivier constantly feared he wasn't good enough. He battled insecurity his entire career. And to escape that fear, he threw himself into technique, into control, into mastery. When others leaned on emotion, Olivier leaned on craft. When others leaned on instinct, Olivier leaned on transformation. He used vocal shifts, posture, rhythm, costume, weight, every inch of the body to create people who didn't exist until he played them. He believed an actor should design a performance, not just feel it. He said acting required planning, calculation, imagination, the things a magician uses when preparing a flawless illusion. And this philosophy explains everything that comes next. Why he changed his voice for every role. Why he transformed physically. Why he made bold choices, even controversial ones. Why he pushed himself into extremes of technique. Everything Olivier ever did on film started right here, with the belief that acting wasn't truth. It was constructed truth. Something built, something shaped, something engineered until the audience forgot to question it. So before we dive into the famous films, ask yourself something. Do you prefer acting that feels raw and chaotic, or acting that feels precise, designed, and crafted? Because Olivier lived on the crafted side. And in the next entries, you'll see exactly how far he pushed that belief, and how it shaped some of the most influential performances ever put on screen. Number 5, Marathon Man, 1976. By the 1970s, Laurence Olivier was an institution, a knight, a legend, a towering figure from another era. But Marathon Man proved he could still walk into a modern thriller and steal every scene without breaking a sweat. He played Dr. Christian Sell, a Nazi war criminal turned jewel-obsessed torturer.
I'm positive your brother meant to rob me when I left the bank with my diamond.
Cold, precise, terrifying. And here's the crazy part. He barely raised his voice. He didn't scream. He didn't shake. He didn't do the usual villain tricks. He relied on stillness and the illusion he had perfected over decades. But the most famous story from this film didn't happen on screen. It happened behind the camera. Dustin Hoffman, deep into method acting, decided to stay awake for 72 hours to look exhausted for his torture scenes. He wanted realism. He wanted authenticity. He wanted to feel the moment. Olivier saw this, listened, and delivered one of the greatest acting quotes of all time. "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting?" One line, 5 words. A gentle slap from a master to a student. It wasn't cruelty, it wasn't arrogance. It was Olivier's philosophy clashing with the new Hollywood approach. Hoffman believed in emotional truth through suffering. Olivier believed in controlled illusion. 2 generations, 2 techniques, 1 unforgettable moment where they collided. And here's the thing. Hoffman later admitted he deserved the remark. He laughed and said Olivier had every right to say it. Because Olivier did look just as exhausted, without nearly dying to get there. That's what separates Olivier. He didn't confuse torture with talent. He didn't confuse pain with performance. He believed the craft, the technique, should carry the role, not the actor's misery. And it worked! Olivier earned an Oscar nomination for the film. Critics said he made evil look refined and unnervingly calm. His quiet menace is still studied today in film schools. Watch the famous dental scene again. Notice how little he moves. Notice how every word tastes like ice. That's Olivier designing fear, not feeling fear. So ask yourself, is method acting necessary, or is the illusion enough? Because Olivier made you believe in Cell without starving himself, injuring himself, or staying awake for 3 days. He didn't destroy himself to play a monster. He built the monster. That's the difference. That's the magic. And that's why Marathon Man earns its place on this list. Not because Olivier called it a favorite, but because it showcases the power of pure crafted acting at its highest level. Number 4, Othello, 1965. By the mid-1960s, Laurence Olivier wasn't just acting Shakespeare. He was Shakespeare to millions of people. And no role showed that transformation more dramatically, more controversially, or more obsessively than Othello. This was not a casual performance for Olivier, not a job, not even a challenge. It was possession.
As a public commoner, I should make very forges of my cheeks that would to singers burn up modesty did I but speak thy deed.
In his memoir On Acting, he wrote the line that still startles scholars today. "I am Othello. He belongs to me. When I sigh, he sighs." That wasn't metaphor. That was Olivier's full belief. The idea that an actor could merge with a character until the boundaries disappeared. And he lived it. On stage at the National Theater and later in the 1965 film version, Olivier built Othello piece by piece. The voice, the stance, the trembling rage, the heartbreaking vulnerability. Modern audiences criticize the performance for one obvious and undeniable reason: the makeup. Olivier played the Moor in full blackface, a choice that is outdated, inappropriate, and painful to watch today. Even he admitted the physical preparation was intense and exhausting. But in his time, Shakespeare was nearly always staged this way in Britain, and Olivier was chasing authenticity as he understood it. Still, the power of his acting is unmistakable. Look at the way he walks. Slow, coiled, deliberate. Listen to how each line sounds like it's scraping something deep inside him. Watch his eyes in the jealousy scenes. Wide, torn, fighting themselves. He built the character from the inside and the outside. And he wasn't shy about claiming it. Privately, he believed that his Othello set the standard. He said the role demanded a painful surrender, the kind that leaves an actor emptied after each performance. He even warned colleagues that Othello could consume your soul if you let him. This wasn't Hamlet's indecision or Henry V's patriotism. This was danger. This was a man spiraling into madness while believing he was righteous. Olivier's Othello remains one of the most debated performances of the 20th century, admired for its emotional power, criticized for its presentation, and remembered because Olivier poured his entire being into it. So here's the question. How do we watch historical performances that contain both artistic brilliance and outdated choices? Do we study them? Do we condemn them? Or do we accept them as flawed landmarks in film history? No matter how you answer, one thing is impossible to deny. Olivier didn't just play Othello, he devoured the role. He carried it like a storm. He claimed it as part of himself. And for better or worse, it remains one of the defining performances of his entire career. Number 3, The Entertainer, 1960. By 1960, Laurence Olivier was already a giant, the heroic king, the tragic prince, the master of Shakespearean grandeur. Audiences saw him as royalty, a symbol, a monument.
So why, oh why should I?
So when he stepped into the skin of Archie Rice in The Entertainer, everything changed. This wasn't a king. This wasn't a legend. This wasn't Shakespeare. This was a broken man on a dying stage. Loud when he should be quiet, desperate when he should be confident, smiling only to hide the emptiness underneath. And Olivier shocked everyone by admitting the truth. I have an affinity with Archie Rice. It's what I really am. I'm not like Hamlet. That line hits like a confession. Olivier, the great prince of the theater, claiming he was closer to a washed-up music hall performer than to the noble heroes he was famous for. Why did Archie matter so much? Because Archie is the opposite of everything Olivier built his reputation on. Archie's life is falling apart. His family is collapsing. His career is fading. And every night, he walks onto a cheap stage and pretends anyone cares. For Olivier, this role wasn't costume, it was honesty. He stripped away the elegance. He abandoned the grand speeches. He traded the polished Shakespearean verse for bitter jokes, tired routines, and a smile that looks like it hurts to hold. Critics were stunned. Fans didn't know what to make of it. And yet the Academy nominated him for an Oscar, because underneath the grime and cynicism, Olivier delivered one of the rawest performances of his career. His Archie Rice wasn't acting, it was exposure. Olivier once said that Archie was what I really am, and that line reveals a secret he hid for years. He feared becoming irrelevant. He feared age, decay, decline. He feared fading away while younger actors took his spotlight. Archie Rice embodied every one of those fears. Watch the "Why should I care" scene. His voice cracks. His eyes dart nervously. His body slumps as if the stage itself is sinking. He fights for attention, but only half believes he deserves it. This wasn't Olivier slipping. It was Olivier daring to be human. For the first time, audiences weren't watching a powerful titan. They were watching a man who felt small. So here's a question for you. Why do you think Olivier felt more connected to Archie Rice than to his Shakespearean heroes? Was it humility, fear, honesty? Or was Archie the only role that let him stop pretending? One thing is certain, The Entertainer wasn't just a performance, it was a mirror, and Olivier finally looked into it. Number 2, Richard III, 1955. By the mid-1950s, Laurence Olivier had already proved he could conquer Shakespeare's heroes. But Richard III was different, darker, sharper, more venomous than any role he had ever attempted. And he didn't simply play the villain, he engineered him. Olivier designed Richard III like a scientist constructing a monster from scratch.
To all bear such as are of better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream.
The voice? A thin nasal purr, stretched out like a blade sliding from a sheath. The posture? Twisted, hunched, coiled. A body shaped by ambition and pain. The smile? Crooked, calculated, almost charming. Until it wasn't. Olivier once said that Richard was a great actor himself, a man playing roles inside the story, manipulating everyone around him with rehearsed charm and theatrical tricks. And that idea ignited him, because Olivier wasn't just portraying a king, he was portraying a performer pretending to be a king. A double-layered illusion, a mask behind a mask, and he built every inch of it. Look at the opening soliloquy. Now is the winter of our discontent.
Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer.
He glides through the speech with the delight of someone already plotting 10 steps ahead. Every word tastes sweet to him. Every syllable is a secret. Olivier wanted audiences to feel seduced and threatened at the same time. But behind that precision, something else was driving him. Richard III wasn't just technique, it was obsession. Olivier directed the film, starred in it, shaped its visual style, engineered its color palette, and choreographed its battle scenes. He even risked his life performing his own stunts, including the infamous cavalry charge where he fell from a horse and narrowly avoided being impaled by a lance. Why push himself so far? Because for Olivier, Richard was the ultimate test of control. A character defined by deceit, ambition, and craft. The very elements Olivier believed were the backbone of great acting. He once admitted he built Richard's voice after testing dozens of variations in front of a mirror, searching for a tone that felt sly, venomous, and undeniably theatrical. He wanted Richard to sound like someone who enjoyed the art of manipulation as much as the spoils of power. And it worked. His performance is still considered one of the most iconic Shakespearean portrayals ever put on film. Actors study it, directors analyze it, scholars debate it. And even audiences who know nothing about Richard III instantly recognize Olivier's sly, serpentine presence. So here's the question for you. Do you think Olivier's greatest performances came from his heroes? Or from the villains he sculpted with such dangerous precision? Because Richard III wasn't a role he played, it was a role he engineered. A role he controlled the way Richard controlled his kingdom, with charm, venom, and absolute mastery. And that's why it deserves its place at number 2. Number 1, Hamlet, 1948. By the late 1940s, Laurence Olivier had already proven he could command a stage. But Hamlet wasn't just another role. It was the mountain every actor was measured against. And Olivier didn't climb it. He reshaped it.
If it be so, Hamlet is of the faction that is wronged. His madness is poor Hamlet's enemy.
He directed the film, he starred in it. He rebuilt Shakespeare's longest play into a shadow-soaked psychological thriller. Critics called it bold. Purists called it sacrilege. But Olivier didn't care. He wasn't interested in recreating Shakespeare's Hamlet. He wanted to uncover the version that lived inside him. And what emerged was a prince haunted not by Denmark, but by himself. Olivier famously opened the film with a daring line that wasn't in Shakespeare. This is the tragedy of a man who could not make up his mind. Scholars argued over it.
This is the tragedy of a man who could not make up his mind.
But Olivier believed Hamlet wasn't about politics or revenge. It was about paralysis. About a brilliant mind that collapses under the weight of its own thoughts. And he played the role with that idea carved into every gesture. Watch his face in the ghost scene. He looks terrified, not of the apparition, but of what awakening truth might demand of him. That fear wasn't acting. Olivier admitted privately that Hamlet terrified him. The role fed his lifelong insecurity. The quiet belief that he was never quite good enough, no matter how loudly the world applauded. And instead of running from that fear, he poured it into the performance. His Hamlet trembles, he whispers, he hesitates. Not because the script tells him to, but because Olivier understood the terror of overthinking until the world disappears beneath your feet. But here's what makes the performance legendary. He didn't only act the role, he designed the world around it. The fog-drenched castle corridors, the sweeping shadows, the dreamlike camera angles that make the film feel like a man drowning in his own thoughts. Every frame was calculated, every moment engineered, every shot bent toward a single idea. Hamlet lives in a prison of his mind, and the world noticed. The film won Best Picture, Olivier won Best Director, and his performance became the template for an entire generation of Shakespearean actors. But here's the question only you can answer. Did Olivier master Hamlet? Or did Hamlet master him? Because when you watch the To Be or Not to Be soliloquy, delivered in a whisper so fragile it feels like a confession, you're not watching a prince struggle with life and death. You're watching Olivier struggle with himself. And that's why Hamlet deserves the top spot. Not because it was his most awarded role, but because it was the role where craft, fear, ego, brilliance, and illusion collided into something unforgettable. Though in the end, the viral headline gets it wrong. Laurence Olivier never sat down and revealed a secret list of 6 favorite movies. He never ranked his own work. He never circled titles in a notebook and declared them superior. That wasn't who he was. Which Olivier performance stays with you long after the movie ends, and why? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the myths and magic behind Hollywood's greatest artists, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because there are more legends, more secrets, and more stories waiting to be told.